So it's finally 2019, and we have somehow survived the Third World War. And we are now living in the world of Akira, with biker wars, zealot religious groups, and grotesque Esper children. Yeah, the 1988 classic of Akira is one of the handful of sci-fi flicks that changed everything, and one of the handful of anime flicks that, well, kept things the same. But like many fictional futures, we finally caught up to the timeline. So let's compare our 2019 with theirs. And one of the big things this movie was spot on about was the Olympics. Yes, Japan will be hosting the next Olympics. When this news was announced, it was kind of like fulfilling some kind of prophecy. And right on cue, there is a stadium being constructed. Of course, that's where the final showdown happens. Cue that impact sound meme. But let's look deeper at Neo Tokyo, a constructed city on a constructed island. Unlike the Olympics, this never came to be, but let's examine this new city. And even though it's difficult to know how high the buildings have gotten, you kind of get the idea from this screen cap that the buildings below this line were the normal heights of Tokyo, and now Neo Tokyo has upscaled to this level. With the first act, we have a chase between two gangs through this futuristic metropolis. And one thing that looks pretty authentic is the holographic tech, using it to advertise things, but now we use it to create entertainers. We follow this pettiness into a tunnel where an explosion happens. Suddenly, automated hoses start putting out the fire. And for Grace's safety measures, that's something that really does exist now. But let's put our attention to the most iconic symbol of this movie. The bikes, well, Kaneda's bike. And while we do have electric ones, Kaneda seems to be on another level, with the sparks it gives off and that transparent lighting stream when it moves around. Or maybe that's just an artistic touch. We seem to be closer to making something like that than the hover cart thing that Kei and Kaneda hijacked. Well, at least something that can perform that type of speed. What about the weapons these guys are using? Well, they're typical for the 80s, but there are two that stand out, and they're two lasers. There's this infantry weapon that Kaneda uses, and there is some truth to this, as there is a non-lethal weapon called the phaser that has been created. It works the way you would use a rifle, but the orbital satellite that takes off Tetsuyo's arm is a no-show. So what about those creepy psychokinesis children? While this really seems to be more in the science fiction than the science, well, I don't know what to really say about it, but if there was a kid who went to your school called Akira and he stopped showing up, you might know why. What else can I say? Well, we still play pinball and wear jackets. And that's about it. Well, that's Satoma's 2019. A Japanese utopia/dystopia that only the most anime of anime characters can survive. And like many futures, it's something to strive and fear for. But to tell you the truth, I think we missed out. Despite the apocalyptic consequences of an ungodly power unchecked and a population that does not come to terms with how to control it, only for it to control them, it sounds fun. Or maybe not. No one wants nightmarish visions of the next indie survival horror game in the waiting.